Okay, hi everyone. Um, so I've got 18 people viewing, but no one's actually managed to join. So are people having problems or what's going on? Drop me a message or an email or something. Right, looks like we've got Ingrid. Ingrid's joined. There you are. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Great. We have one person in, so we just need to wait for, you know, right, looks like we've got Ingrid. 19 others in. What's going on there? There you are. Hi.
Hi.
Okay, so Ingrid, have you got your video turned off? Is that right?
Yeah, it's it.
Okay.
Hi.
Yeah. Okay, but you can still hear and you can talk. Oh, you don't have to. Okay. Hi. Yeah, you don't necessarily need to have your video on, but just checking that you can actually see and hear everything. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Um. So how did you get in? What was why is no one else in here at this stage?
I don't know, I was in the YouTube live broadcast thing.
Yeah.
Then I couldn't say anything, but I could see you. And then I
Okay.
saw like your link outside, like saying try this link to participate. So
Okay.
yeah,
And so that's the one that you followed. Okay.
yeah.
All right. Great. So I think what's happened um, is people are going to the wrong. I've posted the wrong link. So hopefully people will be able to. I'm just gonna try and see if we can connect a few more people in.
They are watching you on YouTube, right?
Yeah, okay. So what I'll do, I'm just going to duck over to the YouTube space and drop that link there, and hopefully and hopefully people can join in that way. Sorry, just hold on for 1 second.
Okay, someone came in.
Someone else is in? Hey, here we go. We've got a few more people. Winmass. Hi. And who else have we got? Sorry? Can join in that way. So. Hey, here we go. We've got a few more people. Winmass. Okay, so. Hi. What you might need to do is stop the YouTube channel, because it sounds like that's a little bit behind if you're watching that. Okay, so what you might need to do sounds like that's a little bit behind. Sounds like that's a little bit behind. And also, could I ask people to mute their microphone until they're going to talk? And also, could I ask people to mute their microphone until they're going to talk? Great. And also, could I ask people All right, here we go. You might need to stop the YouTube channel, because it sounds like that's a little bit behind if you're watching that. All right, here we go. You might need to that's a little bit behind. That's a little bit behind. And also, could I ask people to mute their microphone until they're going to... Okay,
I'll send it to you.
Okay, I'm just trying to mute people, just because I've got a huge feedback loop happening here. So can you stop unmuting your microphones, people? I just need them muted for a moment, just to stop this so that we can get going. Okay, I'm just trying to mute people, just because I've got a huge feedback loop happening here. Can you stop unmuting your microphones, people? I just need them muted for a moment, just to stop this so that we can get going. Okay, I'm just trying to mute people. Okay, so I'm hearing myself from about 2 minutes ago. So I think someone might be watching the YouTube live broadcast, which is slightly delayed from our live version. So has someone got a couple of windows open? Our live version. So okay, is everyone good? Yes. All right, we got there. Okay. No, sorry. I just had to go in and do a little bit of authoritative type of work there. So just what I've found in the past is that it just gets very noisy if we've got all of us have our microphones on. So I think a good protocol, and this is not to silence you in any way, this is just to try and keep the hum and the buzz down a little bit, so that we don't get big feedback loops and it's not harsh to talk to or whatever. So please just does everyone know how to mute and unmute their microphones? Yep. Okay. So please just feel free to unmute your microphone when you want to say something, or if it's not too noisy, leave it open, that's okay. But generally, if we have up to 10 people with microphones open and different time delays and whatever, it can get really messy. So anyway, hi, welcome to week number 2. Looks like you guys have all been able to join. I'm sort of hoping that delays and whatever, it's really messy. So anyway, hi. Okay, great. Here we go. Excellent. Right. It seems that you all have been able to get in. Okay, so I guess that's from following the link that that I shared with you all. So thanks for following that. I'm also just spending a little bit of time looking at different channels. I think a few people can and can't get in. Miranda, you ended up getting in? Is that right? You're in here? Where's Miranda? No? Okay, hang on. I'm just going to... Just give me 2 minutes, everyone. I'll just try and get these other people into the room as well. Okay. Okay, so I think the rest is just up to everyone else. Okay, so hopefully we can get this going. I think we're off to a good start. We've got like 10 people in the room, so hopefully if other people sort it out, they can come and join it as well. Thanks for coming in today. Hopefully the program is not too disruptive for you. And as you can see, I'm sitting in my child's bedroom. Just in case you forget the English alphabet, it's just up there behind me. Goes all the way from A down to Y because I couldn't get Z on that wall, so it had to go over on the other wall. Anyway, we're here today to talk about all things social media. So I thought maybe how we could try and do this is I might just do a quick recap on some of the theory that we've covered this week, and then just open it up for a broader discussion, maybe have a chat around the Twitter seminar that we were part of last night and some of the key issues that emerged out of that, and maybe just round our discussion out with a discussion about your projects and what's working and what's not working and that kind of thing. So I think the best way to go, is everyone okay with that? Does that sound like a fair, yeah? Okay. Now you've also got, right, someone can't join because of the limitation of people. Okay. In that instance, I think they're just going to have to watch the live broadcast then. So it looks like we've got a full room. So Teddy, could you translate that message for me, please, to your friend who's trying to get in? Cool. Okay, so the core things that we've covered this week have been around the 2 chapters from the Hinton and Horth book, Understanding Social Media, where we're talking predominantly around social network sites is our first area, and then the second area is around user-created content. So in the first instance, Chapter 3 is looking at social networking sites, which they define as a type of interface between groups of users and places. So if we think about, let's say Twitter, given that we were all there last night, the social network site is Twitter, which brings a whole diverse group of people together via this piece of technology into the Twitter world. Okay, so the space, or the place actually, the place, because we're giving it some kind of nuance and cultural meaning in that regard. The place is Twitter, the Twitterverse, and the people are the Twitter users. So it's an interesting way to think about social network sites as a connective interface between those two sorts of places. But at the same time, they raise the point that rightly so it should be thought about as something which occurs concurrently. It's not either or. It's not just the space or place, and it's not just the users. It's both happening at the same time. And so, using that concept, then we start to build on that to think about things like online communities, which we started to talk about last week. In terms of boundary construction is a good way to think of this. So we have an online community and we put a boundary around that. And the idea of that is there's the people within the online community all have similar types of characteristics or traits or interests or goals, that kind of thing. So we might all be keen on angling. So we want to fish. So we formed a fishing club, and so inside of this online community, which is hosted in a forum or something, we're all interested in the best places to catch fish or equipment or something like that. So within that small space, there's people who are interested in that, and then there's all the other people on the outside. So this othering notion is what's really interesting to think about here. So we are part of this, and we other those who aren't in it. There's lots of good things that are associated with online communities, but I think that's one of the key interesting aspects of it, that we're kind of pushing those away that aren't part of this particular interest group. The next area from there is this concept of networked publics. So we briefly spoke about this last week. And I think the best way to describe this is around events. So we might have, there's a Dana Boyd quote in chapter 3, which is really quite useful, which I think it's about page 41 from memory, where she describes what a network public is. But I think it's really quite useful to think through that in terms of events and how we might come together around various, I guess, time moments, temporal incidents. So let's stick with Twitter as the platform for the discussion. We use a hashtag, and that brings sparse groups of individuals together around this particular event, to which we are interacting with each other in some particular way until that event is over, and then we disperse again. So we're together as a public, and we could define public as a group of people with a common civil interest, and we're brought together by technology, by these social media platforms. Once the event is finished, then we disperse back into our everydayness. Beyond that, then I think one of the more, I really like this concept, and I think it's something, or I'd highly recommend you start to explore yourself, is this concept of intimate publics, which is something based around this network publics idea. So people coming together around particular things, particular issues, events, whatever it might be. But Dana Boyd goes on to explain this in a way of it's about people working out strategic ways to share information. So the example I gave last night was around something like the Tor network, the Onion router, which is associated with the darknet or the black web, or however you want to call it. And that's essentially, are we all familiar with what Tor is? I might just to give you some background reading while I'm talking about this. It's called the Onion router. The acronym is Tor. It's about anonymity online. So you enter via a series of routers to the internet, and essentially, so there's the link to it. It's kind of like you install a router on your machine and you enter into the internet under a cloak, basically. So then you can go and do whatever you want to do, and it's typically it's been associated with illegal activity, but I mean that's kind of just a small section of what's going on. This is more of a kickback against surveillance and government surveillance, essentially. So so if we think about intimate publics in that regard, we might want to talk to our immediate publics about a particular topic that we don't necessarily want other people to know about. For example, the government. I don't know, just an example, let's go with that. So we've designed these systems. I'm just going to try and block those cockatoos out. Sorry about that, they're pretty loud. So we try and arrange or strategically arrange ourselves so that, you know, we're able to communicate in a way that we're free to do so without others coming in and seeing the space or whatever. So intimate publics, it's a very interesting concept, and I think you should explore that further. And then if we move into chapter 4, so we're looking at UCC, so user-created content, and there's an interesting delineation that they make at the start of this chapter, which is the transition from user-generated content to user-created content, which is very subtle how they write it, but it's actually quite significant in its the way it's played out. So they're suggesting that user-generated content, is kind of in that realm of user exploitation, in that I would create content for organizations, or, you know, I'm taking pictures for the news and I give it to them and it's free labor and that kind of thing. Whereas the argument that Hinton and Hawth are mounting is that UCC, user-created content, is content that's created by users for users. So it's very much banking on that that Web 2.0 type of philosophy, peer production, participatory culture, all these kinds of underpinning concepts of participation and convergence, essentially. So user-created content is kind of the broad heading of this chapter. One of the next most important things I think you need to visit is prod usage. So Axel Bruns has coined that term, and essentially this is the point where consumers and producers are intersecting and blurring the lines between their roles. So traditionally, producers and consumers had they had distinct roles. One created content, one consumed content. You know, we see internet technology start to emerge. The communication environment shifts. These two roles are then starting to blur as consumers are now creating content, producers are now consuming the content, and then we start to move into the next iteration of that type of phenomenon, which is where this chapter then starts to move into things like citizen journalism, participatory culture, Wikipedia for expertise and knowledge, and you could even think or push that further to something like how those sorts of projects, the kind of tell us what you reckon projects, or even to the point of some of these social media campaigns that are, you know, pushing out a hashtag, a specific hashtag for use or whatnot. So that's a very brief and quick run through some of the core concepts that we were exploring today or this week through the readings and in the lecture. I'm now going to stop talking and enable you all to participate and ask questions. If you are actually on the YouTube channel, maybe it's a matter of sending through questions. I'll monitor all of the... okay, so I'm seeing some people are saying that it's full. Apologies about that. It looks like we've reached our limit with the people that can participate in the video conference. So just watch the video as you can, and please shoot through comments on the Google Hangout page. I'll monitor where it says say something. I'll monitor there, as well as the group chat window that we've got in our Google Hangout here as well. And please, if you're on video and in the room, please feel free to unmute at this stage and kick off a discussion around something. Are you having troubles with any of the theory? Is something not gelling, or does it remind you of a particular real world, an empirical type of experience or something, from either the content within the lecture or from within the readings? Go, your turn. We can stare at each other for another 30 minutes if you want, or you know, we could talk if someone wants to talk. So I'm kind of hearing then that no one is having any issues with any of the theory. Is that right? Everyone's cool with that? Yes or no? Yes, there's a few thumbs up. All right, great. Well, seeing as no one wants to talk theory, which is kind of sad. I like talking theory. It's good. I might just open
about the theory.
Oh, yes, Teddy. Excellent. Thanks. Go.
Basically, when you're explaining about the network community or network publics, don't you think that basically the community created by, or not created, situated by the social network sites are polarized, because it just accentuates the beliefs of the people? Like, as a living example, like my friends on Facebook are basically, divided according to their own beliefs, and they're kind of, like living separately on Facebook. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent discussion starter in terms of that leads us to then question or explore the difference between the online persona and the offline persona. Yeah, I don't know. Do those two, are they different? Particularly when you start to polarize people in those sorts of conditions. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that people, when they're online, they tend to be more outspoken, and they feel like, I think I can say anything I want. Meanwhile, when we met them in person, sometimes they're a bit reluctant to say what actually they have in mind. It's kind of passive-aggressive thing, I guess. Like, don't want to say it in front of your face, and they just feel like it's not their obligation to tell it to us. Meanwhile, for some people, when they're writing on Facebook or Twitter, it feels like they're talking to themselves without realizing that they actually talk to many people, including us, the one they don't want to talk at the very first beginning.
Yep. Yeah, it's an excellent observation. And I mean, we're even experiencing this in this room here right now, in terms of, I'm the lecturer coming in, and I feel totally comfortable talking and whatnot, but clearly others aren't so open to talk or feel a little bit restricted in that. And I wonder, and this is a question I'd ask to everyone, is it a cultural thing? Is it the lecturer-student kind of relationship, or is it a technological thing in terms of, I can't work out this system, now I can only watch the video? I don't know. Like, what's the how do we feel about that dichotomy between online community or networked publics and networked communities?
I feel like it might have something to do with how, like on Facebook and stuff, you're more freely to talk because, like, most of the people are like your friends and you already know them, whereas, like, in this kind of environment, a lot of us probably don't know each other, so it's a bit more difficult to talk.
Yeah, that's a great comment. Someone's just said a comment. The technology is inhibiting me. Excellent. Thanks, Trinidad. I get it. I totally get it. The technology on this is inhibiting. But that's a good point that you make. Courtney, Was Courtney? Yeah, Courtney that just mentioned then. So we kind of, I guess why do we feel more comfortable in Facebook as opposed to other spaces? That's probably a good question to, or like for our Chinese students here, why do you feel more comfortable talking in Weibo than you do in WeChat? What's your thinking in that?
Can you hear us?
Yep.
Because like in social media like WeChat, we have a lot of families and people who we are really familiar with. So we are not going to say something which is really, show our real emotions. Like if we are really tired after school or if we are really stressful. So we don't want our parents to get to know that. But in Weibo, we could show like the more real ourselves. So it's kind of different.
I think like Weibo is more kindly like a public social media, so we can add some celebrities, the people we want to have attention to, so we can connect with them to see what they happen. And about WeChat is a more likely closed social media for us. So we add our friends, our family members, so we can talk, we can make friends in there. So kind of difference.
Yeah. So you're essentially saying that you're bringing in a particular type of identity. If we could go back to that concept again, you're bringing in a certain identity in that space, and that's how you're inhabiting in that. That's a good point. I want to go back to this idea of I feel more comfortable talking in Facebook than what I do in maybe this environment, for example. And I mean, let's interchange Facebook and Weibo as like a similar type of platform in this environment here, in this discussion. I tend to agree. When I operate across different platforms, I've constructed various personas in each one, and I will act differently in various spaces. As we were talking about last week, Facebook for me is becoming more and more professional, family-oriented, professional, not so much jokester and that kind of thing. Whereas my Instagram is like, whatever, let's go for that. So I wonder if there's like, what's the relationship here between the technology and the culture? Like, what's the intersection point that, or is there? Do you think there's an intersection point between technology and culture, and how those two ideas enable or disable? To go back to Teddy's point before, do they polarize users in these spaces?
I think I want to comment on the idea how we actually express ourselves differently according to the social media that we use. For example, on Facebook, when you say that it becomes more professionals, and also it involves family, that we might want to, be more careful in posting something, not as free when we're using Twitter, for example, or Instagram. Well, if we see the nature, I think Facebook and Twitter and Instagram is kind of different. In Facebook, like the relationship is mutual, that you acknowledge that you are actually friends with them on Facebook. Meanwhile, on Instagram and Twitter, in my point of view, that it's kind of, it depends on the person who wants to follow us. So when they decide to click the follow button, they know what we're going to talk about. They know what we're going to post. So then it's going to give us the freedom to say whatever we want, because they're the one who decides to follow. So they have to deal with what kind of posts that we have then. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's great. Let's take that discussion point, and then I think you're absolutely onto something there, Teddy. Like when we talk about how we take our offline personas into our online spaces. Sure, I'm in this space, whatever that space might be. and I already know these people. I went out, to the pub with them on Friday afternoon or whatever. So the conversation just continues in the online space, and it's, oh yeah, like, remember that time when blah blah or whatever. But then there's these other spaces where we're not entirely sure who we're talking with here. So with that as a trigger, how do we then think about this around the social media design, your assignment? This is where I'm trying to direct the conversation. How do we think about communicating across multiple platforms to people that we don't necessarily know? We don't know who these people are. So how do we design something that's inclusive and can talk to broad amounts of people?
Probably we can jump into an existing conversation or discussion by using the hashtag feature on Twitter, so that when people look up to the conversation according to the hashtag that they're interested in, then our conversation will also be included in the searching features, I guess, and also to trying to be more expansive as possible, I guess.
So you're essentially making an argument that we need to go to where the people are, I guess. So then how do you do that? How do we actually go to where the people are, and then how do we start talking with them? Like, if someone was to just drop into this conversation right now, what would you do?
Well, as a newcomer to the conversation, then I would just observe what the discussion is and how it's been going on, and then trying to get into the conversations when the time is right.
So you observe, and what's the sort of things? Let's drill into that. Like, I think that's
Okay.
crucial. That's a really significant thing to talk about. What are you looking for when you're in that observation period? What's the sorts of things that you're looking for?
For example, if I'm maintaining social media accounts for a product, and then I will see the discussions, what kind of topics that is being discussed in the product. Say that we're talking about insurance, people might talk about how the claiming process is, about the fee and everything, and from that angle we can see the talking point that we can use, so that we can jump into the conversation and use it as the how do I say this? Use it as a angle so that we can enter into the conversation while selling the
Leverage,
product. Yeah,
maybe.
yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Like, I think that's a really key point that we need to be aware of here. So we can't just assume that what we're going to talk about, people are going to want to listen to. It's like, great, you've got the best social media designed campaign ever. That's fantastic. And then you take it out to the streets and people kind of go, so what? So that's, I think, one of the really significant issues of this, is that we need to identify, and this is the trick behind communicating across multiple social media platforms, which is why this content calendar is so crucial for you. You need to identify where these conversations are, who's on those platforms, and how they talk in those spaces. So, and this is all building off this great conversation that we're starting to have here around, dropping in somewhere, observing how do people operate, what's the norms, what's the language, and then how do I replicate my message, or how do I assimilate my message into this space?
Can you explain more about how they talk? I mean, like, is this like the lingo that they use?
Yeah, well, yep. So that's quite a broad language is quite a broad topic that we can talk about here. So in the first instance, like the language of I guess, is it English, is it Mandarin, is it, I don't know, Portuguese, whatever it might be. That's kind of your top level. That's your first sort of place to start. And then we start to drill down, like what's the how do people construct their comments? For example, if you go to an old school forum, there's lots of acronyms in there which you know, which actually some of them have transferred across into more modern platforms as well. Like the big one everyone seems to be using at the moment is ICYMI. Who knows what that is? ICYMI. First one to answer gets a banana. In case you missed it, Korean, yes! I owe you a banana next time we're in class. Oh no, your sound dropped out. Why? Have you? It's not it's still not working. So yeah, sorry, I found last night that I had to force quit and reopen my application when that happened to me, and that fixed the problem. So anyway, moving along, the yeah, so these kinds of things like that's back now, great. ICYMI, in case you missed it, TBT, Throwback Thursday, given that today's Thursday. WTF. OMG, the list is enormous. You know what I mean? Like there's lots of these sorts of methods or self-constructed norms within the languages, and you wouldn't sort of walk into a Twitter conversation with someone and go, oh my god, what the fuck? People would be expecting you to go hashtag OMG, hashtag WTF. Exclamation, that kind of short, succinct way of talking that's become a convention across that platform. And that shifts, that changes differently to if we go to something, Twitter and Instagram are kind of similar in how people communicate and the sorts of language that they use. But then you've got other ones like Pinterest, which has got its own unique way of people communicating. It's more of a emotional, descriptive type of way of communicating, I guess, is a way of describing it. I don't know. Where do you people all hang out, and what's an example of how people might communicate, which is not straight up, hello, how are you today? I'm fine, thanks. Shall we continue our conversation? It's more of a and in the know, like I'm aware and I'm hip. I don't know if they can still use that word. Like I'm hip to how we communicate in this space. Who's got an example of that? No one. No one's got an example. Oh, there we go. Hey, yeah. Courtney, excellent. Hey, go.
Yeah. With Facebook, it's like I guess considered more personal because a lot of people do put their profiles in private just to keep with their friends. So when they update, a lot of their updates are like personal, like what's going on in their life, and that's how they're communicating with people. Whereas I feel with things like Twitter, that's more the public sphere, and though people still post like personal everyday things, like I guess there seems to be more of a connection to what's going on in the world, like celebrities or just news events in general.
Okay,
that's
so
like my personal feeling.
Yeah, no, I think you're really onto something there. How do you then say you want to talk about your project or your movement or whatever, and it's about, I don't know, whatever it's about. How do you shift your communication style to align with those sorts of conventions?
Well, so like what my idea is, like, just for everyone else to understand, is to kind of have like a fitness group focusing on getting girls to fitness in like a local area. So I guess with like Facebook, you would try and target them with like linking fitness activities to local areas that like where your community is. So it could be like there's a spot where you can do fitness and you label the spot. Whereas like if it were to be on Twitter, you might link fitness to more national things, like how the government is currently running a campaign to get girls to be fitness. So you might link your ideals together on that platform.
Yeah, it's a good way to approach it. So one thing which I've noticed is quite popular in that kind of environment is sort of like the inspirational quotes and whatever. So, if you think about that as a format of, or a textual representation of a communication convention, that's huge in some environments where it's like sunrise coming and embrace the day, you've only got one chance, or whatever it might be, whatever the quote might be. That's huge, and that's a convention of communication. You could say that is a language in its own right. So that's what I'm trying to get at in terms of the point that you raised, Teddy, about dropping into a space, observing, trying to understand the languages. This is very, very important, and something I think you should have been doing for the last couple of weeks, which I think most of you have inherently anyway. You understand how to work in these kinds of environments. We've got about 10 minutes left. So, has anyone heard of the Webby Awards in here? No. All right. I'm just going to get you something. So this one here. So the Webby Awards are an independent award that's set up to. I might just post this over here as well, so people have got this here as well. Yes, HIP is so 2000. Pinterest definitely can relate to people with same interests without having the pressure of having to be all friendly and chatty, and an amazing source of infinite inspiration in an imaginable interest. So that's from Trinidad. So, yep, I agree. Apologies for using the word hip. I have two pet hates, hip and trendy. Never shall you hear me say those two terms again. Anyway, the Webby Awards. So this is an independent award ceremony which recognises people who do good things on the web. It's an Australian-based thing. And that link that I've just sent to you all, which I've posted on the Google wall as well, that is the finalists, I think, for the 2015 social media campaign category. Well worth having a look at, and just seeing how other people are approaching this kind of thing. Lots of Twitter, lots of hashtags. It's hashtag central. The People's Voice category, I find that to be pretty impressive. Hashtag last selfie, about extinct animals on the planet. But in your own time, please just go through that page and have a look and see how other people are operating in that space. Some of the leading industry people and the kinds of ideas that they're working with there. Now, the other thing that I wanted to go through with you all today was the Twitter seminar last night. Did we all manage to get there and see that? Did anyone have troubles is probably the first question. I'll take your deafening silence as there were no troubles.
Yeah, we had troubles because we cannot get into the Twitter seminar.
Okay.
I was reviewed. from the seminar.
Okay. I think maybe next time we're together, so next Thursday, we'll just do a really quick overview of how the technology works in terms of Twitter and Google Hangouts, just so everyone is okay with that again. And then the other thing to say there is that I've captured that conversation from Twitter last night, and I've posted a link to it on our class blog, which you can access here. I'll just post it here for you so you've got that as well. Actually. Cool. So thanks, Courtney and Winmass. Excellent. So yeah, if you missed it and you haven't read it yet, there's the compilation of it right there, which you'll notice has got an updated confused Travolta as the GIF for the heading image, which is just fantastic. It just keeps giving this meme. I love it. It's like John Travolta heading missiles in an army. Come on, it's gold. Like that's champagne quality comedy right there. So go through that because there are a few resources that that Jen pointed us to last night in terms of like the first steps of thinking through how to design a social media campaign. And one of the big things that she was talking about was SMART. So what's her acronym? Oh, I'd have to go back through it. Anyway, the good thing about that is that I have captured all of those and put them on our resources page. So I would just direct you to this link, which is just the resources page on our class blog. And you can see from here, particularly under that first heading, social media strategy design and implementation resources. There was a couple of really great blogs that Jen shared last night, one by Buffer, another one which was just a Pinterest graphic. But the one that I would draw your attention to is the Buffer blog entry, which is an infographic. How often should you post on social media? See the most popular research and tips. And what I want to show you especially is this. I'm just going to share my screen. So you should all be able to see that now. So this here, and this is a way to think through how you might approach how often you should post to social media. And it's a nice way to think through, you know, different platforms have different conventions. You wouldn't post to Facebook 5 times a day because people will just unfriend you, and you don't spam a Twitter feed because people will just unfriend you. So this is kind of a really it's a yardstick, I guess. So Pinterest 5 times a day, Twitter 3 times a day, Google 3 times a day, Facebook twice a day. Just an interesting way to, or I think a useful guide for you all as you're designing your content calendars and thinking, all right, so how many times do I need to do my Pinterest update or my Vine update or whatever? That's kind of that's a space. That's a resource for you. Okay, so we've just got 5 minutes left. Are there any questions about your presentations, in-class presentations next week?
I have a question about the calendar schedule. So do we need to do it from the Excel software?
So I sent you through a template. Have you got the template?
You sent from email or you?
Yeah, in the week 1 wrap up email, I sent you a link to a Hootsuite. It was a Hootsuite blog entry, and they've got a hang on, I'll direct you there again. They've got a template which is so easy to fill in, which makes this job, ridiculously easy for you, basically. Hang on, just let me find this. Okay, check that one out. blog.hootsuite.com/how to create a social media content calendar. If you follow through to that, you can see the second paragraph. It's got creating a plan, a template, or calendar simply means blah, blah, blah. And that link there for the template, I think, is the one that downloads the Excel spreadsheet for you, which is pretty much what you can see. Oh, no, sorry, there it is. You keep scrolling down, and there's a big green button that says download example. Or maybe that's already filled in. I don't know. Either one of those links will get you to a template which you can just download, and then you think about all of the things that we've been discussing in class in terms of platforms, messages, and frequency, and fill out that content calendar as you see fit.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions?
I have another question about the content calendar.
Sure.
Over what period of time should we be creating this? Because I'm thinking if it's only like on one slide of our presentation, it can't really go for like 3 months. So
yeah. Good question. So the idea is that we want you to think out to 3 months, but at this stage you're still just presenting the overview. So maybe if you just work out towards a month at this stage, and I just want to see that you've got foresight, that you're not going to give me, right, well, tomorrow I'm going to do this. I want to see a little bit further into the future to demonstrate that you're thinking about how a succession of messages might amount to a social media campaign. So think through that. If you aim for a month, and to be honest, you're only going to initiate this for 1, 2, 3 weeks. So you want to really concentrate on that first 3 weeks of the content calendar.
Cool.
Maybe time for one last question. Can you take us? Oh, hang on, Nancy. Nancy's got 200 words or 2,000 words. Yeah, okay. It's 200 words. It's the equivalent of 2,000 words, and sorry, that's a little bit confusing for some people. So it's a 200-word blog post, and then the rest of it is consumed with the 6-minute in-class presentation. So all you have to do is 200 words. That's how much you have to write, and the rest of it is the 6 slides for the 6 minutes in the in-class presentation. And that's 2 o'clock. So I'm just going to check to make sure there's no one else's. Oh, hang on. Is the posting to blog due date? Is it the day of the in-class presentation? Yes. Indar's just asked a question. Is the posting to the blog due date the same as the in-class presentation? The answer is yes. By midnight, whatever. Just make sure it's on the blog the same day that you give your presentation. Trinidad's got a question. Should we send you our campaign ideas beforehand, or just on the presentation due date is fine? Just on the presentation due date is fine, because I don't necessarily want to get 2,000 emails within this next week. Just think of this more as you'll do well if you concentrate on the 5 slides in the template. You address each of those questions that's on that template, and you also provide a content calendar. You'll be fine with that, so don't stress it. and this is an opportunity then for you to get feedback on your idea. That's the point of this exercise as well. Okay, so I think that's it. There are no more questions. Yeah, that's it. Okay, good. Well, thanks everyone for I know this technology is a little bit clumsy, and everyone wants to send me emails about it. So thanks for that, and I'll see you in class next Wednesday. Okay? Bye. And that's Otto. Bye.
Daddy.